Okay, let's give you guys some practice. So I'm going to do the first one, and then you guys can do the ones after. So I'm asking you to sketch this graph here. When x is big, this block here will dominate, because at the moment you've got 3 blocks. This block here will dominate when x is big. So you know we want to do a quadratic, a positive quadratic, but it's only valid when it's big around this region. And when it's small, let's combine these two together, because we are good at sketching straight lines. So combining these two together, it's like me asking you to sketch 3x, the straight line 3x minus 7. So remember, this block here will dominate when it's small, when x is small around this region. So it wants to do an intercept of -7, and then it wants to have a +3 gradient, something like this. So your line will have to go through here, and it has to do a quadratic. So as it turns out, if you do it like this, if you sketch it like this, so your quadratic will look like this. You see, when it's big, it is doing a quadratic, and when it's small, around this region, it is doing a straight line, intercept of -7, and a gradient of 3. Okay, so overall your graph will look something like this: -7, and then create a quadratic, a positive quadratic, like that. Okay, so now it's your turn. So sketch this graph. So press pause and have a go. Okay, so let's combine these 2 blocks, but don't forget, this has a gradient of the negative belongs to whatever's after it. So it is like me asking you to sketch y equals -5x minus 10 as a straight line, and then when x is big around this region, it wants to do a positive quadratic. Okay, so sketching this intercept of -10, let's just say -10 is here. It wants to do a negative gradient, and then when x is big around this region, it wants to do a positive quadratic, something like this. Okay, so to sketch this, I would go down slightly and then up, and then straight up. So your quadratic, your graph will look something like this. Okay, so this one here would be -10. Okay, next one. So sketch this graph. So press pause and have a go. Okay, so to do this, your eye should zoom into here. When x is big, it wants to do this, and don't forget, it is a negative quadratic. So remember, x squared looks like this, minus x squared will look like this, and then here we've got minus x squared. So when x is small around this region, intercept of 9, let's just call this here 9, gradient of -8, so it will look something like this, and then it wants to do a negative quadratic, so it has to be something like this. So let's go up and then down, and then straight down. So your quadratic will look like this. So your final answer would be so your graph will look like this. Okay, next one. Okay, sketch this graph. So press pause and have a go. Okay, so here when x is small, it wants to do this. When x is big, it wants to do a negative quadratic. So intercept of 12, let's just call 12 here. It wants to do a negative gradient of 1. So this has a gradient of -1. So -1 looks like that. It's going downhill, and then it has to do a negative quadratic. So go up and then down, and then straight down. So you can see it is a negative quadratic when x is big, and when x is small, it is doing this straight line here. So your graph will look like this. Okay, so next one. Okay, so press pause and have a go. Okay, so to do this, when x is small, it wants to do this. When x is big, it wants to do a positive quadratic. So intercept of 10, gradient of -9, and then it wants to do a positive. So I would have to go up here, and then down, and then up again. By the way, it could be like this. It could be above the the x-axis, or it could go below. At this stage we can only guess. In the future you'll be able to find this turning point here. Okay, but if you were to sketch this, it could go like this, or it could go like this. So at the moment we can only guess. So let's just guess it to be like this. Okay, so last one, and a hard one coming up. So sketch this one. Remember, x to the power 3 looks like this. X to the power 3 looks like this. So when x is big, it's got to do something like this. When x is big, right? So think about it. Press pause and have a go. Okay, so to do this, when it's small, it wants to do this straight line. When it's big, it wants to do a cubic. So a cubic is something like this. Like this. When it's small, it wants to do an intercept of 6. So let's just say this is 6. And a gradient of -4. So -4 will look like this. So when x is small, it has to go through this straight line. When x is big, it has to do this. And it has to do this. When x is negatively big, it has to do this. So you see, if you've got to stare at this and have a guess. It has to do this straight line. It has to go through here. It has to go through here. So as a guess, it would look something like this. So if you were to so here, go up slightly and then down, and then here go down and then up. Remember, the turning points could be anywhere. It could be above the x-axis or it could be below. At this moment, we can only guess. So it doesn't matter which way you do it. What's important is that it goes through this straight line, and it has to be going up, and it has to be going down around here. So if you were to sketch this, it would be something like this. Okay.